Hello, my name's Juliana and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the second episode of the series Makeup and Mental Health. This episode is going to be about the subject, what is mental health? If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be alerted whenever there's a new episode up. So we're doing this topic because if you're not following me on Instagram, please do check out my Instagram account. It's the exact same name, juliana.filippa. And there I post once a day, sometimes multiple times a day, about all the different things that I talk about on this YouTube channel as well. And on my Instagram account and on my personal Instagram, I asked people what they wanted to hear about in episode 2. And I could go back and forth between more educational, informational episodes and episodes that are more personal and have to do with my own experience with mental health and mental illness. So I decided, since the first episode was about my own experience with mental illness, I would talk this episode about the more informational, educational topic of what is mental health, and then the next episode will be about my last manic episode. If you have any things you want me to cover or things you want to learn more about or that you're hoping to be able to comment about, please do leave a note in the comments. I will read those religiously, and if there's any feedback, ideas, questions you have, leave them there. I definitely want to be talking about topics that interest you, that you're passionate about, that you want to learn more about, whatever those are in the mental health, mental illness sphere. So today I'm actually going to start off, I've applied my sunscreen, which is the last step in skincare, as it should be for you too. The first thing I'm going to apply is this Farsali product, Novelty #1, a Luminous Peptide Serum. It is gorgeous. As you can see, I love it. It's almost done. The thing goes up as you use it. You can kind of see it's very shimmery. And I don't know if you knew this, I only discovered this recently, but you're actually supposed to wait at least 15 minutes after applying sunscreen before applying any other products, like any makeup products. Because that's about the time it takes for your sunscreen to set on your skin. If you start applying makeup before then, there is the risk that you disrupt the sunscreen. And also another note, so you know, you should never mix your sunscreen with any other products, whether that's like a tinted moisturizer or a makeup product, a foundation, whatever it is. Sunscreen is like a chemical compound, or multiple chemical compounds. Okay, I'm not a scientist clearly, but like sunscreen is formulated to be used alone, and mixing anything with it can disrupt the sunscreen and actually lower its effectiveness, lower its SPF, so that you're not getting the full benefit from the sunscreen. So just a reminder, always use your sunscreen alone as is, don't mix it with other things, and wait 15 minutes between applying your sunscreen and applying any other product like makeup or anything like that. So when it comes to the topic of what is mental health, I do want to make a disclaimer. A lot of what I will be saying in this episode is approaching mental health topic from a Western perspective. So there's a few reasons for that. I will be talking about it from an Eastern perspective specifically later on, but a lot of the other things I talk about we'll be talking about it from a Western perspective without necessarily like meaning to. But a lot of the books, articles, things you find online, just by default of who is writing it, it's from a Western perspective. So I'm aware of that limitation. I apologize for it. I myself am Western, was educated in the West, so I am bringing my own biases and perspective in that sense. So I just wanted to be sure to call that out. Like I said, I will be talking about it a little from an Eastern perspective, but there's actually much more there. So what I was thinking was I could do a whole episode about mental health from the Eastern perspective. Let me know if that interests you. I'd love to do more research and find out more about it and share that with you guys. So if that interests you, leave a note in the comments. But I did want to call that out. So I thought I would start off with a definition of what is mental health, and I thought I would default to the World Health Organization, or WHO, because it is a global health organization. They know what they're talking about. They try and take things from a global perspective, representing all the countries that they are across the world. And so I thought that was a good starting off point. So there's actually a couple quotes that I'm going to go through. So the first is, mental health is more than the absence of mental disorders. Also interesting, they say mental disorders, not mental illness. Mental health is an integral part of health. Indeed, there is no health without mental health. Totally agree with that. Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And then finally, mental health is fundamental to our collective and individual ability as humans to think, emote, interact with each other, earn a living, and enjoy life. On this basis, the promotion, protection, and restoration of mental health can be regarded as a vital concern of individuals, communities, and societies throughout the world. So that's a basic definition of mental health. We're going to kind of work from that and use it as a jumping off point. I was also curious to know what ChatGPT would define as mental health. So I also checked with ChatGPT and asked that, I think the question I just asked was, what is mental health? And ChatGPT responded, mental health refers to a person's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, influencing how we handle stress, they both mentioned that, relate to others, they both mentioned that, and make choices. Mental health is essential at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. So thought it was pretty interesting. When we go into the Western and Eastern perspectives, these kind of are global perspectives. So you'll see the theme of like well-being and psychological well-being. And where things start to split off and diversify is, what is that definition of well-being? When you get into it, what does well-being mean? That's when you kind of start to have differences and different perspectives. Okay, so we're going to start with the under eye. I'm going to use the Kosas concealer. I'll put the full name on the screen. The videos don't let me link to products yet. I'm really sorry about that. So hopefully once I have more watches or my YouTube channel is bigger, it will let me link to outside sources. Oh, and I'm sorry. This is in the shade 3.5W, which I always think looks so light for me, but ends up, like it does. It looks like it's way too light for me, but it ends up looking, I mean, decent, good, I think, once I blend it in. So this is a beauty blender. And sorry if I sound stuffed up. I have a runny nose. I'm getting over a stomach bug, and I appear to now have a runny nose. I do live in Goma, so if you've heard about us having monkeypox, that is correct. I do not have mpox or monkeypox, thankfully. I think it's just allergies or something, but I apologize for the stuffiness of my voice. So for years I applied concealer with my finger, and then for the last 8 months or so, I've been using a beauty blender, and I absolutely love them. They're annoying to clean, but they work so well. So a really important point that I want to start off with is that everyone has mental health. Now, you'll see that there's mental health and mental illness. Those are two different things, but they're also used in two very different ways. A lot of mental health organizations could be considered mental illness organizations because they're for people who have a mental illness, but you will see frequently that the term used, not always, but a lot, at least especially nowadays, is mental health. And there's a whole reason for that, and it makes a lot of sense. It's much more marketable, it's much more appealing, it's much less intimidating, much less frightening, it's much more encompassing because, like I said, everyone has mental health. That applies to everyone. Just like you have physical health, you have mental health. Mental illness does not apply to everyone, and mental illness is scary, it's frightening, people don't understand it, people don't talk about it, there's a huge stigma. So again, the term mental health is considered much more approachable and so is used much more in everyday language. Now, just like anyone's physical health can be compromised due to a variety of factors, from environmental to genetics to biological to whatever the case, it's the same with people's mental health. And just like how people can have flu, chicken pox, things like that, where you have it, you get through it, and then you're done. So just the same way with your mental health, you can go through mental health challenges, but it doesn't mean that you have a chronic illness. So you could go through a particularly stressful time, really have mental health struggles, but it could be something that will be a defined period of time. It will happen, you know, you will go through it once and then get past it and not go through that same thing again. Or you might, but it's because of different factors. So it's a different illness, you know, it's a different time period in your life. Again, now with physical health, just like how there are chronic illnesses like asthma, diabetes, hypertension, these are things that you have to deal with on an ongoing basis. And these are chronic illnesses that affect your physical health and can affect your mental health, but we'll talk about that later. There are also mental illnesses that can chronically affect your mental health. Things like bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, anxiety, ADHD, a lot of things like these. Schizophrenia, I won't list them all, but these are chronic conditions that you usually deal with for an extended period of time, and you will deal with on an ongoing basis. There is no known cure for bipolar disorder. There's treatment for mental illnesses. There's no known cure for them. And then sometimes people can go without treatment and they don't have an emergence of it. Hi, Editing Juliana here. I just want to clarify something. I don't want to give the impression that if you have a diagnosable mental illness, that means you will have that for the rest of your life. That could be true, that could not. The truth is there's so much about the brain that we don't know, and so much about psychology we don't know. There is still so much that is unknown about the brain, about how it works, about how it affects us. And so for some people, they will receive a diagnosis of a certain mental illness, and it does mean they will struggle with that for the rest of their life and will require treatment for the rest of their life. There are other people, they may grow out of the illness. I definitely don't want to give the impression that receiving a diagnosis of a mental illness means that there is no hope and you will suffer from that for the rest of your life. That's not necessarily true. Every person's experience is different. Just because you have a diagnosis does not mean you will have that for the rest of your life. To clarify, I don't want to give that impression. Everyone's experience is different, and it is not a life sentence or anything like that. So just to clarify, sorry. Okay, hope that's the only edit. Okay, now we're going to do one of my favorite parts, which is the eyes. We're going to start with the eyeshadow primer, which I'm using Sigma in the color Persuade. I learned about this from some of my favorite YouTubers who focus on eyeshadow, and I'm so glad I got it because I absolutely love it. It works so well, and I haven't had problems with creasing. So you kind of put it on like that, you rub it in. I have very oily eyelids, and plus I am always sure to put sunscreen on my eyelids, which makes them more oily. That can be annoying, but don't forget to put sunscreen on your eyelids. Put sunscreen everywhere. Sunscreen is amazing. You need it to protect you from the sun. Use it. If you want to see which sunscreens I like and don't like, check out my shorts where I post sunscreen reviews. I'll link to those down below. Okay, so yeah, this is like a perfect color for my skin. It just completely blends in. So one of my new favorite eyeshadow companies is Adept Cosmetics, and this is going to be the palette I'm going to use today. Ninhydrin, I think is how you pronounce it. One thing I love is posting the covers of my eyeshadow palettes. So the only thing is, I love the Adept Cosmetic palettes because they're made out of like great materials and they feel really weighty and high quality and lovely, but they don't come with covers. So I can't put my covers among my cover collection. But look at these colors. Gorgeous. Okay. Okay, so we're going to use the Cooltrals palette by Cosmic Brushes to go into the crease. So again, I don't describe too much what I'm doing when I do eyeshadow because I'm not an expert. So I'm going to use the color Crave, which is this kind of light purple, to set the stage. I don't know, that's what I always consider this, like doing the crease part. I have hooded eyes, and so it's like quite difficult for me because if I put eyeliner on, if I put eyeshadow on, like it imprints above in no time. I have very oily lids, and like I said, I put sunscreen on them, so that makes it even more the case. And then, and I have hooded eyes, so it is very soft, but I think that's fine. So from a Western perspective, when you talk about mental health, a lot of times the focus is on personal belonging, satisfaction, and happiness. Happiness is its own very interesting topic in psychology, and I predict an episode on that in the future. So, because it's positive psychology and happiness, and there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Okay, and then, so that was Crave, that color in the middle, that lilac. I'm going to do all sparkles. So I'm going to put some black sparkle, black sparkle, Eclipse in the corner. So that is kind of the Western focus of mental health. The Eastern focus, and now I kind of wrote more about this, so I gotta check my notes. There's a focus on self-care, mindfulness, and spirituality. So self-care in the sense of proactive things like meditation, breathing exercises, activities like yoga, mindfulness like meditation and mindfulness. These are all now very common in the West and something that a lot of people focus on, so they may be familiar to you, but they're methods to help people live in the present moment and really focus on their experience rather than on thinking about things. And then spirituality, a holistic approach to mental health, includes spirituality, which can also be true in the West. In you know, obviously the West also has very predominant predominant religions, but Eastern practices include accepting inner experiences, exploring the transience of experiences, and reframing attachments that can cause you pain. So I'm just buffing this out a little. Oops. I'm gonna buff this out a little. Okay. So now we have our outer corner shadow. Now we're going to go into the Adapt Cosmetics palette. So I'm going to do this purple, AC123, right next to the black. Now I'm going to do this blue, AC120. Okay, and then I'm going to put this ACD18. In the inner corner. And this, kind of soften it. Okay, and then I'm going to take Ninhydrin, which is the color the palette is named for, and kind of, because it's also a lilac, and kind of just put it above. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't think this is right, but I also feel like there is no right and wrong in makeup. You try things out, they work or they don't. Basically, I've already done a makeup routine filming this episode, but I didn't like how I talked about mental health, so I decided to refilm it. If the makeup is messed up, but I like how I'm talking about the mental health topic, I'll probably keep it because I'm sure we can learn something from how I didn't do the makeup right. And again, so like technically there is no right and wrong in makeup. It's all about, just like there is no right or wrong in art. Okay. I like that. I'm gonna go in with the black again, just to darken that up a little. Okay, so it kind of looks a mess, but I kind of like it. Okay, so there's one quote that I got from a Psychology Today article that was all about mental health and the Eastern philosophy and Eastern perspective that I thought was really interesting. So I'm actually going to read it out now. To live in the present moment is the greatest asset to one who struggles with their mental health. For when we are present, we are simply experiencing rather than thinking. Again, what I said earlier. They say the mind is a wonderful slave, but a horrible master. When our thoughts dictate our actions and affect how we view the world, the consequences can be dire, especially for intricately wired minds such as those with mental health diagnoses. Being mindful, we realize everything is okay right in this moment, at this moment. And as the present is all we will ever have, everything will always be okay. So like I said, I know there's a lot more to the whole Eastern take on mental health. So please, would love to do an episode on that. So please let me know if that sounds interesting to you. Next, we're gonna go in with mascara. I have this new mascara from Surat that I heard about from, I should know her name. She's one of the YouTubers I follow the most. She does like skincare, hair care, more high-end beauty. Like I don't think she's ever done a color pop or anything like that. But I like her channel a lot, so I'll link to it. I didn't powder my under eye. Normally I do that right after doing my under eye. It's like how in the first episode I forgot to put on eyeshadow primer before I did my eyeshadow. It's just I'm not used to doing this whole thing, so I get distracted and don't do things that I normally do. So we're going to powder the under eye. And I now have this cute flower nose pad that I keep in here. I used to do this with a brush. Okay, now I'm applying like powder everywhere. I don't think this is working very well. I used to do this with a brush, but everyone I see applies powder with a poof. I think that's what they're called. So I was like, yeah, I should try that. So why is mental health important? Just a disclaimer again, you're going to see this ties back more to the Western perspective of mental health, but anyways, there are overlaps for sure. So there are three main reasons. I mean, there are so many reasons, but three things I'm going to focus on. One is it helps you deal with life's challenges. So we've seen this repeatedly in a lot of the different things I've quoted and referenced throughout this episode so far. As we know, everyone has challenges in life. Everyone faces obstacles, everyone has struggles. It's impossible to be human, have a human experience, and not go through tough times. That's just, unfortunately, that's not how life is here. So mental health is important because it helps you, your mental strength and your mental well-being will help dictate how you cope and how you react and how you deal with those situations that you will undoubtedly have to deal with. So that's the first reason. The second reason is the link to one's physical health, and this goes both ways. Mental health is closely tied to your physical health, and chronic stress or mental health conditions can lead to physical ailments, and vice versa. The stress of having to deal with a physical illness or physical ailment can also affect your mental health. So the mental health and physical health are both intrinsically tied together. So this is where we kind of get into the more Western perspective. But the last one is it dictates your quality of life, because your mental health influences your overall satisfaction and happiness in life. So these are very important components of your life, how you experience your day-to-day life, and your mental health really dictates and impacts those aspects of your life, your level of happiness, your level of satisfaction with your job, with your relationships, with your intimate partner, with your children, your family, all these things. Your mental health impacts all these aspects of your life. So those are kind of 3 of the reasons why your mental health is really important. And again, I'm saying mental health, right? Not mental illness. So this is something that applies to everyone. Okay, next we're gonna go in with blush. We're gonna use one of my current favorite ones. This is a new one. This is color Fleur, flower in French, Pixie on the Glow blush. I love it because it's really buildable. So I have the Rare Beauty blushes, for example, and I find them difficult. You know, they're so pigmented, they're intimidating, they're scary to work with. There's another YouTuber I follow who doesn't like cream blushes for partly that reason and talks about the Rare Beauty blushes like that. And I'm like, yes, thank you, I'm not the only one. These are great because you put them on, you can see it, but then they diffuse really well, or buff out, or blend out, or whatever the proper phrase is. Now my face does like eat makeup alive. I don't know, at the end of the day I have like half of it left on my face than I did in the morning. I don't know why. And that's like even if I use setting powder. I mean, most especially if I don't, but even if I use setting powder, there's a difference. So maybe it's because I don't use primer, maybe it's because I often forget to use setting powder. Not really sure, but makeup just gets like absorbed into my skin. Not in a way that like I then have breakouts and it clogs my pores, but it disappears, it goes somewhere. But it's no longer on my face. Just to add a little more color, I'm going to do RMS Sangria color. Just a dash to provide some depth. Okay, now for one of my favorite parts, highlighter. Okay, so some remaining key points. First, you should view mental health as a spectrum. It exists on a spectrum. So it ranges from positive mental health, such as feeling well, resilient, able to cope with life's challenges, to mental health difficulties, like experiencing stress, anxiety, or depression. It's not just about the presence or absence of mental illness, but also about the overall quality of one's psychological well-being. Also, as I mentioned throughout this episode, there are fluctuations over time. So that's another important thing to remember. Just like physical health, mental health can and does fluctuate over time depending on so many factors: life events, stress levels, relationships, physical health, so many things. Everyone experiences periods of good mental health and periods of poor mental health, depending on the circumstances they're going through. And for some, there can be more good, for some, there can be more poor. It just depends, and it depends at different points in your life. So those are 2 important things to remember. Mental health on a spectrum, and that it fluctuates over time. I think the highlighter I'm going to go in with is this, can you see? Beautiful Odin's Eye Solmåne Sunlight Love Blusher. Moon Tears. So pretty and so sparkly, and as we know, I love sparkle. Look at this. Like, won't focus. But you can just see, look at those sparkles. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is the first time I'm using this. Okay, it's very sparkly. Let's try and buff that out a little. Whoa! I mean, it's sparkly. I mean, I did just say I love sparkles, but that's sparkly. That's some sparkly shit. Okay, let's try. We won't go for even application. We'll go for proper application on the other side. Okay, well, I kind of buffed it out a little too much now on this side. And then I'm going to go in with this really old Too Faced Canary Diamond highlighter that I just love. And again, also provides a dusting of sparkle and glimmer that I just like. Now, last step is lips, and so I'm going to go in with Gisou or Jisoo, I never know, honey infused lip oil. Now it looks super glittery, doesn't it? Okay, that looks like it's chock full of glitter, but it doesn't look glittery on the lips. And yes, I say that with disappointment. So see, my lips look nice and shiny. They look like they have honey infused oil on them, but they do not look glittery. Now, I have purchased some super glittery, super shimmery lip oils, and I am so excited to get them. There's one, they have also amazing colors. And they were all sold out, and I cried inside. But they are back. I purchased them. I can't wait to get them. I'm not gonna remember either name. Okay, well, I'll feature them when I get them. Get excited. If you like glitter, if you like crazy colors, you will love these. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the episode. What I wanna do with each episode is end it up and wrap it up with some key takeaways, so that if you only have 3 minutes and you can't watch the whole episode, you can just go to this bookmark spot, watch the key takeaways, and then you're set. And that's fine. You miss all the makeup and you miss the long diatribes, but you at least get something out of it, because the goal in this, in the end, is to help increase awareness about mental health and help contribute to the conversation about these issues. So key takeaways. Number 1. Not everyone has a mental illness, but everyone has mental health. Mental health is something that we all have. Just like we all have physical health, we all have mental health. And just like our physical health can be compromised due to various things, our mental health can be compromised due to various things. That's an important point to remember, and something you should definitely bring up when you talk about this topic with people who are wary of it or don't want to really interact with it. Number 2. The definition of mental health can vary based on culture, background, region or country of origin. What seems to be the trend and what counts is this sense of it somehow has to do with your psychological well-being. Now, when it comes to what well-being is, that is where the definition starts to get a little murky and go in different directions based on your understanding of mental health. But it's about your psychological well-being, essentially. Number 3. Your mental health impacts every aspect of your life. This is very important. This is why mental health is so important. It affects your ability to cope with the daily struggles and challenges and stresses of life. It impacts your physical health. It impacts your well-being, your mode of interacting with other people. It interacts all aspects of your life, and that is why it is so important, and that is why you need to take care of it. Number 4, mental health exists on a spectrum, and it can fluctuate over time. So, are those the key takeaways you think? Let me know in the comments if you think there's anything I left out. Let me know what your definition of mental health is. Let me know what you thought the most interesting things of this episode were, what you would have left out, or what you'd like to learn more about. Can't wait to read your comments, hear from you, hear your feedback, ideas, suggestions. Again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to turn on notifications so you can be alerted to any future episodes. I can't wait to hear from you. I hope you found this informative, enjoyable, and maybe learned a little something. See you next time. Loves and hugs from Goma. Bye.